Have you ever revisited a place, once a source of immense joy and comfort, only to find it leaving you feeling utterly drained, perhaps even a little diminished? It's a subtle shift, one that often creeps in unnoticed as the years gracefully advance. For many individuals navigating the vibrant season of life between 65 and 80, familiar environments can begin to demand more than they offer, subtly chipping away at precious reserves of energy, peace of mind, and even a hard-earned sense of dignity. The most challenging aspect of this phenomenon is its insidious nature. Most people don't consciously register this depleting exchange until their well-being has already started to erode, piece by piece. This is precisely why our discussion today is not just important, but vital. It's not a call for isolation or a retreat from the world. Instead, it's an invitation to cultivate a deeper awareness, to embrace the wisdom that comes with experience, and to consciously protect the sacred spaces of your inner and outer life. This conversation is rooted not in fear, but in foresight. The kind of foresight that empowers you to draw wiser, more discerning boundaries, especially as your needs evolve. Your body, your heart, and your mind in this remarkable chapter require different forms of rest, connection, and safety than they did in decades past. Yet, many seniors continue to frequent certain places out of ingrained habit, a sense of obligation, or the understandable, poignant hope that things will somehow feel the same as they once did. Sometimes these places aren't overtly dangerous in the conventional sense. They don't announce their threat with blaring sirens or warning signs. Instead, they operate more like a slow, steady current, gradually wearing you down, emotionally, mentally, and physically, until you find yourself feeling inexplicably heavier, perhaps lonelier, or more profoundly tired than you can readily explain. Does any of this resonate? Perhaps you've already experienced it. You visit a particular spot, and in the aftermath, your legs ache with a new intensity, a tightness constricts your chest, or your mood inexplicably plummets. It's easy to dismiss these sensations as merely getting old. But what if it's not just about the when, but also significantly about the where? The undeniable truth is that certain environments can insidiously drain us, often without explicit warning, slowly siphoning away our peace, compromising our health, and eroding our self-respect. Today, we will embark on a thoughtful exploration of 6 specific types of places that, as you age with grace and wisdom, you might consider visiting less frequently or with a new, more conscious approach. This isn't a judgment on your value. Far from it. It's an affirmation of the profound wisdom you've accumulated, a wisdom that guides you to cherish and protect your well-being. Each of these insights stems from real, lived experiences, and understanding them could spare you considerable heartache, prevent undue exhaustion, and avert deep regret in the years to come. Before we delve deeper, I'm curious, have you ever made the conscious decision to stop going somewhere, even if others suggested you should continue? What was the catalyst for that change? Please share your experiences in the comments below. Your stories enrich our collective understanding. 1. The hospital when necessity doesn't call. The first environment we need to approach with increased discernment is the hospital, specifically when a genuine, acute medical need isn't the driving force behind the visit. Let me be unequivocally clear. This is not an admonition to ignore legitimate medical emergencies or pressing health concerns. If you experience sudden chest pain, an alarming blurring of vision, persistent dizziness, or any other symptom that feels genuinely urgent, seeking immediate medical attention is paramount. What we are addressing here, however, is the pattern of visiting the hospital out of ingrained habit, pervasive fear, or sometimes a profound sense of loneliness. And yes, this occurs more frequently than many are willing to admit. Many individuals currently between the ages of 65 and 80 were raised with the deeply embedded belief that the hospital is the default destination if anything feels even slightly off. What might have been a sensible precaution in younger years can, with age, transform into a practice that carries more potential harm than benefit. Hospitals, by their very nature, are inherently stressful environments. They are cacophonies of unfamiliar sounds, beeping monitors, urgent footsteps, hushed but anxious conversations. They are characterized by harsh, often fluorescent lighting, protracted waiting times, and an almost palpable atmosphere laden with the emotional weight of illness, uncertainty, and sometimes grief. Prolonged or repeated exposure to such an environment can systematically wear down your nervous system, deplete your resilience, and drain your precious sense of inner peace. Consider the story of Henry, a kind 78-year-old man who lived alone after his beloved wife passed away. His social circle had dwindled, and his days often felt long and empty. Consequently, whenever he felt a bit more tired than usual or experienced a minor fleeting ache, his default response was to go to the hospital. Sometimes these visits occurred as frequently as once a week. Over time, a concerning pattern emerged. His doctors, perhaps understandably, began to treat his symptoms with less urgency, sometimes rushing him through consultations. He underwent numerous expensive tests, often just in case, and was prescribed a growing list of medications, some of which interacted poorly with one another. Tragically, one day, Henry was hospitalized not for an underlying illness, but due to complications arising directly from the medications he had been prescribed during these frequent, precautionary visits. His story is a poignant reminder of the potential for iatrogenic harm caused by medical examination or treatment itself. Beyond the physical risks, there's a significant psychological dimension to consider. Your mind begins to associate the hospital environment with sickness, fear, and helplessness. Even if you are physically well, repeated immersion in this setting can subtly reshape your self-perception. You might start to see yourself as inherently weak, overly dependent, or perpetually fragile, simply by virtue of being in that place so often. Once this identity takes root in your mind, your body often follows suit. The deeper issue at play here is often psychological, intertwined with a profound need for reassurance. As we age, we naturally become more acutely aware of our body's signals and our inherent vulnerabilities. A fleeting sensation in the chest that might have been dismissed as indigestion in younger years can now trigger the alarming thought of a potential heart attack. In this context, the hospital can morph from a place of healing into a mechanism for calming anxiety. However, this short-term comfort frequently comes at a significant long-term cost to your peace of mind, your financial resources, and sometimes your physical health. There are, fortunately, far healthier and more sustainable ways to monitor your health and seek reassurance. Cultivating a strong relationship with a trusted primary care physician, exploring options like home health checks if appropriate, practicing mindful observation of your body's normal rhythms, and even engaging in open conversations with a friend, a counselor, or your local pharmacist can provide the grounding and clarity you need. Remember, you are not defined by your fears, nor are you merely a product of your age. You deserve to live with calm, clarity, and the quiet confidence to discern when professional medical help is truly necessary and when your anxieties might be leading you astray. If this first point about discerning hospital visits has struck a chord with you, or if you've seen this pattern in yourself or a loved one, please consider commenting with the number 1 below. It helps us understand what resonates most with our community. And if you're finding this discussion valuable, we warmly invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Your support allows us to continue creating content designed to inform, empower, and uplift. 2. The crowded supermarket, navigating weekend obstacle courses. Let's now turn our attention to a place that seems, on the surface, utterly harmless, even a symbol of routine and independence. The crowded supermarket, particularly during the peak hours of Saturday or Sunday afternoons. It might not immediately register as a dangerous place, but for those over 65, it can quietly become one of the more challenging and draining environments to navigate. The core issue lies in the confluence of physical changes associated with aging and the chaotic nature of these spaces during busy times. As we mature, our physical balance may not be as steadfast as it once was. Our eyes might take a fraction longer to adjust to rapid movements, shifting patterns of light and shadow, and the kaleidoscope of colors presented by endless product displays. Joints can become stiffer, making quick pivots or sudden stops more challenging. In this context, a crowded supermarket, which might have been a minor inconvenience in earlier years, can transform into a veritable obstacle course. People rush past with laden carts, often oblivious to those moving at a more measured pace. Children, exuberant and unpredictable, might dart in and out of aisles. Tall shelves necessitate stretching or crouching, movements that can strain backs and knees. All this unfolds under the ubiquitous hum of fluorescent lights and the echoing announcements that add to the sensory overload. It's not merely tiring, it's profoundly overstimulating for the nervous system. I recall Judy, a vibrant 74-year-old who had always cherished her grocery shopping expeditions. She often said they made her feel independent and productive, a tangible connection to her ability to manage her household. However, after a couple of unsettling close calls, once when a heavy cart carelessly pushed struck her heel, and another time when she nearly slipped on a damp spot in the produce aisle, she reluctantly admitted that the risk was beginning to outweigh the reward. She recognized with a clarity born of experience that one bad fall could potentially mean months of painful recovery, or even worse, a significant loss of her cherished mobility. This realization was a sobering one, forcing her to reevaluate a lifelong routine, and the challenges extend beyond the immediate physical dangers. The sheer stress of navigating long checkout lines, managing heavy bags, and trying to decipher confusing store layouts that seem to change just as you've mastered the old one can be immense. By the time many seniors return home from such an outing, they aren't invigorated. They are depleted, often to the point of exhaustion. That simple grocery run can effectively incapacitate them for the rest of the day, especially if they're already managing conditions like high blood pressure, arthritis, or the general fatigue that can accompany aging. Furthermore, there's another hidden cost we must consider: the impact on the immune system. Crowded stores are, unfortunately, prime locations for encountering and transmitting airborne viruses and bacteria. One uncovered sneeze in the vicinity of the fresh produce, one persistent cough from the person standing behind you in line, and your body, already potentially slower to mount a robust immune response, faces a new battle. It's not just about germs either. The incessant loud noises, the visually cluttered aisles, and the constant stream of information to process all contribute to what psychologists term cognitive overload. The more frequently you subject your brain to this kind of chaotic sensory input, the more likely it is that your mental clarity and even your memory can begin to suffer. There's also a subtle psychological erosion that many people overlook. In years past, the grocery store might have been a place that reinforced feelings of capability and control. You had a list, you efficiently located your items, you managed your budget. It felt like a small, satisfying victory. Now, however, when you find yourself straining to read tiny print on labels, struggling to lift heavy items from high or low shelves, and attempting to navigate a sea of shoppers who often seem completely unaware of your presence, you might begin to feel invisible, as if the world is no longer designed with your needs in mind. This quiet, creeping erosion of confidence can accumulate over time, impacting self-esteem and overall well-being. The good news, however, is that there are intelligent and empowering alternatives. Many seniors are now discovering the distinct advantages of shifting their shopping trips to weekday mornings. The stores are generally quieter, the staff members are often less rushed and more available to assist, and you can take your time, ask for help if needed, and move at your own pace without feeling pressured. Some have embraced the convenience of online grocery services, not because they are incapable of shopping for themselves, but because they wisely choose not to expend their precious energy reserves on navigating chaos. That conserved energy can then be joyfully redirected towards a walk with a friend, pursuing a beloved hobby, or making a heartfelt call to a loved one. You have undeniably earned the right to choose peace and comfort. You have earned the right to design your life around safety, joy, and ease, rather than being dictated by outdated routines or a perceived need to prove your capabilities. So, if you've been persistently pushing yourself through noisy, crowded stores simply to demonstrate that you're still able, please take this as a gentle but firm sign. Your intrinsic worth has never been and will never be dependent on how many bags you can carry or how quickly you can complete your grocery run. If you're still with me and these insights into navigating supermarkets are proving valuable, please let me know by commenting with the number 2 below. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss out on future discussions. Your engagement and support are invaluable to us as we strive to create content that informs and inspires. Number 3. The stair-filled public park or treacherous trail, when nature's beauty hides a risk. Let's now consider another type of place that on its surface seems entirely wholesome, even inherently peaceful: the beloved old public park or the scenic trail, particularly those characterized by numerous stairs, steep inclines, and uneven, unpredictable paths. For many years, such a place might have been your go-to destination for invigorating walks, pleasant meetings with friends, or simply a quiet moment to breathe in some fresh air and connect with nature. However, as we journey past 65 and approach our 70s and 80s, these familiar terrains can present hidden costs and potential dangers that too few openly discuss until, unfortunately, an incident occurs. The fundamental truth is that older legs, knees, and ankles simply don't possess the same forgiving resilience they once did. An often overlooked biomechanical fact is that descending stairs places significantly more stress on the knee joints than ascending them. Conversely, climbing up a steep incline can cause your blood pressure to spike and can strain your heart more rapidly than you might anticipate, especially in warmer weather or if you're not adequately hydrated. Many of these older parks and trail systems were designed and constructed long before accessibility and universal design principles became widespread considerations. This often means you'll encounter cracked pathways, hidden dips, or rises in the ground concealed by leaves or shadows, and exposed tree roots that you might not notice until your foot twists awkwardly, leading to a sprain or a fall. What often makes these situations more perilous is a subtle form of overconfidence, born from years of familiarity. You might think, I've walked this trail hundreds of times. I know it like the back of my hand. But our bodies are in a constant state of change. Reflexes naturally slow with age. Our proprioception, the sense of our body's position in space, can become less acute, and consequently our margin for error narrows considerably. That once peaceful and trusted route can, insidiously, become a trap of false familiarity. Consider the experience of Alan, a sprightly 78-year-old who insisted he was perfectly fine to continue his usual weekend hike up his favorite hilly trail. He'd been doing it for decades, after all. However, about halfway up, his foot caught on an unevenly placed stone step. He went down hard. The result was 2 fractured ribs, a severely bruised hip, and a painful recovery period that left him reliant on a cane for mobility, a stark change from his previously active lifestyle. His story underscores how quickly a familiar pleasure can turn into a source of long-term limitation. But the risks are not solely physical. There's also the potential for isolation and increased vulnerability. What if you were to fall in a secluded area where no one could readily see or hear you? What if your phone, your lifeline, slipped out of your pocket during the tumble and was out of reach? What if, in a moment of mild confusion or a desire to explore a slightly different path, you veered off your usual route and suddenly found that the landmarks no longer looked familiar? Cognitive sharpness can fluctuate in this season of life, and what starts as an intended 10-minute detour can for some become a disorienting 40-minute period of being lost and anxious. Furthermore, these challenging environments often subtly push you to do just a little more than perhaps you should. You might walk farther than your body is comfortably signaling, or attempt to conquer one more hill driven by a sense of pride or a desire to keep up with a younger companion, or simply fail to stop when your body whispers, enough. This internal push, this understandable desire to maintain a youthful image or capability, can unfortunately lead to overexertion or injury that sets you back not just physically, but emotionally as well. The ensuing guilt, the frustration of limitation, and the pervasive sense of being less than can linger for months, casting a shadow over your well-being. There's also the quiet, cumulative toll on your joints. Every step on uneven, hard, or unpredictable ground sends small shockwaves through your ankles, knees, hips, and lower back. If you're already managing arthritis or recovering from a past surgery, these impacts don't just fade overnight. They linger, often exacerbating existing inflammation. What begins as mild soreness after a walk today can easily become persistent stiffness tomorrow, leading to a gradual avoidance of activity the day after. You might find yourself inadvertently doing less and less over time, all stemming from one bad day on a trail you once loved. Now, does this mean you should abandon the outdoors and cease all physical activity? Absolutely not. Nature remains one of the most potent medicines available to us, and regular movement is crucial for health at any age. However, it does mean making more conscious and adaptive choices, choosing better paths, both literally and figuratively. Look for well-maintained, level walking tracks, perhaps in community parks designed with accessibility in mind. Explore indoor community spaces that offer walking areas, or seek out botanical gardens that feature smooth paths, ample railings, and conveniently placed benches for rest. It's not about avoiding activity. It's about intelligently adapting your activity to your current reality, rather than clinging to a memory of past capabilities. There is profound wisdom in adjustment. There is immense courage in being able to say, this particular path or activity used to serve me well, but now I choose something different, something better suited for who I am today. The parks and trails will always be there, but your body, your joints, your precious independence, these are treasures worth protecting with utmost care and foresight. If you've had to make adjustments to your favorite outdoor activities or are recognizing the wisdom in choosing safer environments, we'd love to hear about your experiences. Please share in the comments or simply type 3. If this point about adapting to changing physical needs resonates deeply with you, your insights help foster a community of shared learning and support. Number 4, the high-energy family gathering. When love and chaos collide, sometimes the most emotionally and physically draining places we encounter aren't distant or unfamiliar. They are found right within the ostensibly comforting walls of our own family homes, especially during high-energy family gatherings. These events, birthdays, holidays, reunions, might sound inherently joyful, even obligatory. However, if you're navigating life between 65 and 80, these bustling occasions can take a quiet, often unacknowledged toll, not just on your physical stamina, but profoundly on your spirit as well. And it's a topic rarely discussed openly because, after all, it's family, right? The sheer volume of noise, the constant flurry of activity, the unceasing movement of children running, playing, and expressing themselves with unbridled exuberance, the multiple overlapping conversations, what once might have felt like the vibrant pulse of life and warmth can now, for many seniors, feel overwhelming, like a descent into chaos and pressure. You might find yourself nodding along, maintaining a smile through the din, struggling to keep up with rapid-fire stories or jokes that you don't quite hear clearly or fully understand. The aftermath? A profound sense of exhaustion, almost a disorientation, as if your body was physically present but your mind never quite managed to catch up or find a calm anchor. Now, we arrive at a particularly challenging aspect. Many seniors push themselves to attend every single gathering, often driven by a deep-seated sense of guilt or obligation. They might tell themselves, this could be my last Thanksgiving with everyone, I absolutely should go. Or worse, harbor the fear that if I don't attend, they'll think I'm ungrateful, selfish, or that I don't care. This quiet self-sacrifice, however well-intentioned, can slowly build a hidden reservoir of resentment. Over time, this internal conflict, this feeling of being pulled between your own needs and perceived family expectations, chips away at your inner peace and contentment. There's also a deeper, more poignant layer to consider: the feeling of becoming invisible or irrelevant within these bustling family dynamics. As generations evolve, conversations at these gatherings can naturally shift towards topics that may leave older members feeling left out. Intricate discussions about new technologies, complex career advancements in rapidly changing fields, or fast-paced inside jokes and cultural references that pass you by. You might feel like an honored guest in your own family's life, physically present, but emotionally and conversationally sidelined. This particular kind of loneliness, the loneliness experienced in a crowded room surrounded by loved ones, is one of the most painful and silently endured experiences for many aging adults. It's a profound disconnect that can leave you questioning your place and value. Let's not forget the purely physical side of these engagements. The mere act of preparing for such gatherings, whether it involves cooking, extensive cleaning, driving long distances, or simply the effort of dressing up and staying engaged for extended, often late hours, can drain your energy reserves for days afterward. Your legs might swell, your lower back may ache persistently, and your precious sleep patterns can be thoroughly disrupted. And when the event is finally over, you're often left to recover in silence, piecing your energy back together, while everyone else seemingly moves on with their lives, untouched by the same level of depletion. Then comes the internal judgment, the self-criticism you might levy against yourself. Thoughts like, why can't I handle this anymore? Or I must be becoming a burden, can surface, adding an emotional weight to the physical fatigue. But here is a crucial truth to embrace. Your body isn't failing you. It is simply changing, evolving, and communicating new needs. It's asking for gentler rhythms, calmer environments, and perhaps smaller, more intimate circles of genuine, heartfelt connection, rather than large, noisy rooms filled with people, some of whom might be more focused on social performance than on deep engagement. If you consistently find yourself returning home from these family events feeling more tired than nourished, more tense than joyful, more depleted than uplifted, it is perfectly acceptable and indeed wise to begin saying, "Not this time," or perhaps a shorter visit would be better for me. You do not owe anyone your constant presence at the expense of your own well-being. What you owe yourself is honesty, self-compassion, and the courage to honor your needs. This might mean opting for smaller, more manageable visits, perhaps suggesting one-on-one lunches or quiet afternoon teas instead of large, boisterous dinners. Sometimes a heartfelt phone call or a video chat can be a more fulfilling way to connect than being physically present but emotionally overwhelmed. This shift doesn't signify a lessening of love for your family. It signifies a wiser, more sustainable love for yourself. And if your family members truly care about your well-being, they will, in time, understand and respect your choices. Or at the very least, your actions may gently educate them about the evolving needs that accompany this season of life. If you're still watching and these reflections on family gatherings are resonating with your own experiences, please consider commenting with the number 4 below. It's a way for us to connect and for you to acknowledge that you're not alone in these feelings. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, we encourage you to do so and to turn on the notification bell. Your support fuels our mission to provide valuable, thought-provoking content. 5. The late-night grocery store, when convenience masks vulnerability. There can be a certain deceptive allure to walking into a grocery store late at night. The aisles are often quieter, the frantic daytime rush has subsided, and the steady hum of the fluorescent lights can, for some, create an odd sense of peace or solitude. However, for individuals navigating their years between 65 and 80, this seemingly convenient late-night habit could be quietly compromising their safety, depleting their energy reserves, and even subtly undermining their independence in ways that are not immediately apparent. Let's begin with the most straightforward concern: visibility. As we age, our vision naturally undergoes changes, and seeing clearly in low-light conditions often becomes more challenging. Driving at night can feel more precarious, with glare from oncoming headlights being more bothersome. Similarly, walking through dimly lit parking lots or navigating shadowy store aisles where unexpected obstacles or spills might be harder to discern significantly increases the risk of trips and falls. A simple errand to pick up a carton of milk can, unfortunately, end in a bruised hip, a fractured wrist, or worse. And such accidents, as we know, often initiate a cascade of undesirable health events for older adults, potentially leading to longer hospital stays, arduous rehabilitation, and a chain of complications that can feel like they materialize out of nowhere. Beyond the immediate physical risks, there's a significant psychological cost associated with late-night excursions. Nighttime shopping often occurs when you're already experiencing fatigue. After a full day of activities, errands, or even just a bit of social interaction, your body and brain naturally begin to wind down, signaling a need for rest and recuperation. And yet, many older adults push through this natural fatigue, opting to shop late to avoid daytime crowds or perhaps from a considerate desire not to be a bother to family members or caregivers during busier hours. This selfless thinking, while commendable in intent, can often backfire. When you're tired, your focus inevitably drops, decision-making becomes more labored, and you might end up either purchasing items you don't truly need or, conversely, forgetting essential items you specifically went for. There's also something quietly unsettling, for some, about being relatively alone in a large echoing store late at night. The quiet that initially seemed peaceful can sometimes morph into an eerie stillness, heightening a sense of vulnerability. While most grocery stores are generally safe environments, it's a statistical reality that opportunistic crimes, such as parking lot thefts or targeted scams, tend to occur more frequently during low-traffic hours when fewer witnesses are present. Seniors, regrettably, can sometimes be perceived as easier targets by those with ill intent. The last thing anyone needs, especially in their retirement years, is to have their fundamental sense of safety in everyday public spaces shaken by a negative experience. Financially, late-night shopping when fatigued doesn't usually help either. Tired minds tend to be more susceptible to impulsive decisions. Seniors often report purchasing unnecessary snack foods, opting for more expensive pre-packaged meals because they lack the energy to cook, or buying items they already have stocked at home, simply because they were too tired to think clearly or too rushed to mentally check their pantry before leaving. Over time, these late-night impulse buys, seemingly small in isolation, can collectively chip away at a fixed retirement budget, slowly but surely creating financial pressure. The quality of food choices can also suffer when mental energy is low, potentially impacting nutrition and overall health. So, what's the empowering alternative? It often lies in reclaiming your mornings or early afternoons for such errands. Shopping earlier in the day, when your body is typically more refreshed, your mind is clearer, and store staff are generally more numerous and available to assist, makes the entire experience easier, safer, and more pleasant. You'll likely make better purchasing decisions, find it easier to get help if you need it, like reaching items on high shelves, and feel a greater sense of security. Emotionally, you'll also be in a better place to potentially enjoy the outing, perhaps even transforming grocery day into a low-key social opportunity by coordinating with a friend or neighbor for a shared trip. Consider Jean, a 72-year-old woman I know, who used to do her primary grocery shopping every Wednesday night after dinner. She described it as her quiet time. However, after a minor but unsettling fall in the store's parking lot one evening, her doctor gently but firmly convinced her to switch her routine to daytime hours. She later told me, with a newfound brightness in her voice, "I feel like I've taken back my time. It's not just safer. The whole experience feels lighter, less of a chore. It feels like the day belongs to me again, instead of me trying to fit essential tasks into the tired edges of it." The small, consistent routines you establish after 65 truly matter. And sometimes the wisest and safest thing you can do is to listen attentively to your body's natural energy rhythms, rather than being solely dictated by the clock or old habits. If the idea of rethinking late-night errands has given you food for thought, or if you've experienced some of these challenges yourself, we invite you to comment with the number 5 below. Sharing these small acknowledgments helps us all feel more connected in these shared human experiences. Number 6, the doctor's office. When visits lack a clear purpose. This final point may, at first glance, seem somewhat surprising, perhaps even counterintuitive. Over many decades, you've likely cultivated a respectful, reliable, and trusting relationship with your primary care physician, and that is, without question, a valuable and commendable thing. However, as individuals move past 65, and particularly as they navigate their 70s and 80s, a subtle but potentially problematic pattern can emerge for some. Visiting the doctor's office too frequently, often without a clear, specific, or pressing medical reason. It usually begins innocently enough. A small, unfamiliar ache here, a slight, fleeting discomfort there, or perhaps just a nagging, persistent thought that something might be wrong. So you schedule an appointment, just to check, just to be safe. But soon enough, for some, this can evolve into a pattern of regular, almost habitual visits, perhaps every few weeks or even more frequently. These visits are not necessarily prompted by acute, new, or worsening symptoms, but rather by an underlying anxiety about what might happen, a desire for reassurance, or sometimes, as we'll explore, other unmet needs. The core problem here isn't the act of seeking appropriate medical help when it's genuinely needed. That remains crucial for maintaining good health. The issue arises when excessive, non-essential medical visits begin to subtly, yet profoundly, shift your entire mindset from one of active, engaged aging to one of passive, apprehensive waiting for the next ailment, the next problem, the next thing to be wrong. When you find yourself in the doctor's office too often, especially without specific articulable symptoms that require investigation, you can inadvertently start to frame your life around the anticipation of illness rather than the pursuit of health and vitality. You begin, often unconsciously, looking for something to be amiss. And here's the inherent twist in this dynamic. When you look hard enough for a problem, especially within the complex system of the human body and with the advanced diagnostic tools available today, you will often find something. Modern medicine is indeed remarkable in its capabilities, but it also comes with inherent risks and downsides, particularly when interventions are not clearly indicated. These can include the burden of over-testing, the anxiety and further investigation prompted by false positives or incidentalomas, unexpected findings that may or may not be significant, the potential for side effects from unnecessary medications, polypharmacy being a major concern in older adults, and the significant psychological burden of being labeled with conditions or thinking you're sicker than you actually are. One test can easily lead to another. One vague concern can trigger a dozen follow-up appointments. And suddenly, your calendar is dominated by medical visits and your mind is preoccupied with worry and health-related anxieties. For many older adults, this pattern of frequent doctor visits can also be in part fueled by underlying feelings of loneliness, a lack of social engagement, or even boredom. It's no secret that as social circles sometimes narrow with age or mobility changes, some seniors may begin to use doctor visits as a way to have a meaningful conversation, to feel heard and attended to, or simply to break up the monotony of the week. While the human need for connection and care is entirely natural and valid, the medical office designed for diagnosing and treating illness isn't the most appropriate or sustainable place to primarily seek emotional nourishment or social interaction. There's also the less discussed risk of inadvertently being labeled as a frequent flyer or a worried well patient by healthcare staff. While professionals strive for impartiality, human nature means that if a patient presents very frequently with nonspecific or minor complaints, there's a risk they might not be taken as seriously when a genuinely new or significant symptom does arise. This potential erosion of credibility can be dangerous when real, acute medical issues appear and require prompt, focused attention. Instead of falling into this cycle, consider reframing your approach to health monitoring. Learn to differentiate between necessary, evidence-based routine checkups, like annual physicals, recommended screenings, and anxiety-driven, unnecessary visits. Keeping a simple health journal can be immensely helpful. Note your symptoms, track your sleep patterns, your eating habits, your activity levels, and any significant changes. Bring this documented overview to your scheduled physicals perhaps once or twice a year, or when a clear new concern arises. This provides your doctor with a much more comprehensive, long-view picture of your health, rather than fragmented snapshots based on fleeting fears or anxieties. And if it's truly conversation, connection, and care that you're seeking, and these are vital human needs, look towards building those supports in other areas of your life. Explore joining a local senior center, reconnect with old friends, or make new ones. Consider volunteering for a cause you care about, or even seek out a counselor or therapist who specializes in working with older adults. Your emotional well-being deserves dedicated support, but ideally not at the cost of over-medicalizing your life, depleting your financial resources, or creating unnecessary health anxiety. I once met an 81-year-old gentleman named Harold, who, for a period, was visiting his clinic nearly every other week. It was his concerned daughter who gently noticed that these frequent visits seemed to be making him more stressed, not less. When she tenderly asked him why he felt the need to go so often, he replied, "I just want to make sure I don't miss anything important." However, when they sat down together and reviewed his medical records from that period, they discovered that nearly every test he had undergone had come back normal. What Harold truly needed, they realized, wasn't another checkup or another blood test. He needed reassurance that he was fundamentally okay, he needed more consistent companionship, and he needed to rebuild trust in his own body's resilience. So if you find yourself or recognize in someone you care for a pattern of frequently visiting the doctor without a clear, compelling medical reason, it might be beneficial to pause and gently ask, what am I, or what are they really looking for in these visits? Sometimes the answer lies far beyond the prescription pad. If this exploration of doctor's visits has offered a new perspective or touched on an experience you can relate to, please comment with the number 6 below. Your feedback is invaluable. And once more, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and enabling notifications. We are committed to fostering a supportive community built on shared wisdom and continuous learning. As we navigate the rich and often complex tapestry of life, especially in the years that follow retirement, existence can often feel like a delicate balancing act. It's a continuous negotiation between giving and receiving, between extending ourselves for others and thoughtfully preserving our own resources, between the deep bonds of love and the necessary wisdom of limits. When we consider what we wish to pass on to our children and grandchildren, it's essential to recognize that our legacy extends far beyond material possessions or financial inheritances. It also encompasses the powerful, often unspoken lessons of self-respect, the importance of setting healthy boundaries, and the profound value of preserving one's own peace, time, and hard-earned wisdom. Many parents, motivated by a deep and abiding love and often operating from long-established habits of caregiving, continue to give generously of themselves long after their children have become independent adults, capable of managing their own lives. But here lies a crucial, sometimes uncomfortable truth. Giving too much, too often, and too indiscriminately can, paradoxically, take more than it gives, from both the giver and, subtly, from the receiver, who may not learn crucial lessons of self-reliance or respect for others' limits. Reflecting on the 6 areas we've discussed today, the unnecessary hospital visit, the overwhelming crowded supermarket, the treacherous park trail, the draining high-energy family gathering, the vulnerable late-night store run, and the purposeless doctor's appointment. Which of these situations or habits resonated most deeply with you? Were there any that you hadn't previously considered as potential drains on your well-being? Perhaps you found yourself nodding in recognition, thinking of times you've reluctantly given rides when you were tired, lent money when it stretched your own budget, or bitten your tongue to avoid conflict, only to feel a quiet resentment later. Or maybe you've had the dawning realization that while your calendar might appear full, your personal energy reserves are consistently running dangerously low. That quiet disquiet, that subtle feeling of resentment or depletion you might have been experiencing isn't a sign of ungratefulness or selfishness. More often than not, it is your inner wisdom, your intuition, gently but persistently signaling that it's time to create and protect your own sacred space, your time, your energy, your emotional equilibrium. Learning to set and maintain healthy boundaries isn't a selfish act. On the contrary, it is a profound gift to yourself and ultimately to your children and those around you. It models strength and self-respect. It teaches by example the importance of honoring one's own needs alongside the needs of others. And crucially, it allows you to truly savor and enjoy your golden years with the dignity, clarity, and joy that you have so richly earned. Thank you for joining us in this thoughtful exploration today. We would genuinely love to hear from you. Please take a moment to leave a comment below and share one key insight you gained from our discussion and perhaps how you might consider applying it in your own life. Your thoughts, experiences, and reflections are incredibly important to us. They foster a vibrant community of shared learning and support, and reading your comments provides us with great motivation and encouragement. If you found this video insightful and helpful, please show your appreciation by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and sharing it with others who might benefit. Your support is instrumental in helping us continue to create meaningful, informative, and inspiring content. Thank you for watching, and we eagerly look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we'll continue to explore ways to live a more conscious, fulfilling, and empowered life. Remember, the journey of self-care and wisdom is an ongoing one. Start with small, intentional steps today.